sign-in sheet for speaking here, do they?
What?
They don't have a sign-in, do they?
I didn't see it. I think you're supposed to go and speak, right?
I thought so.
We don't, you can speak if you'd like. How are you today? I'm great, how are you? Good. Her and I, Holly and I skipped that around about 1:30. We came back to work, changed shorts like a little for a run, did a 5-mile loop, came back here, we're back by an hour and a half, we got back. Yeah, and get back to work and it's work for me short. Today's 70, I mean, we're not outside today. It's gonna get back to crap again in about a week, so, yeah.
Yeah.
20 miles, that's not the ease for it.
Yeah, that's brutal. I did 16.
Why would you do that?
And running. Golden. It's like 15 of us that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Right.
Was it flat? Don't say flat.
Not fun. But afterwards, never done.
Yeah.
No, it looks like it's fun. Laundry day.
Yeah. But sure. But like, I mean,
You really think about the money you save, like a lot. Yeah. But these people stay in line for 35 minutes for crazy. Yeah. It's insane. But then they'll go buy a $8 coffee like it's nothing, but that's $100 worth of fuel. You know what I'm saying?
no.
Yeah.
No. It's great. I haven't gotten gas for the.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
Like, what is the price? Wow. I would. Yeah. Well, it was funny, one of the, we went down, my son and I went to Pennsylvania hybrid. Virginia, we tried a lot. I still wasn't sure the rate. Stopped at one of the three. But I feel like chatted with somebody else, and they started, like, that'll be like a year. I hate it. Around here.
Did she tell you
Well,
what?
she hated the time.
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing right now, like, she'll like this better after switching.
But I'm like, yeah, but if, I thought about it though, that on a long trip, yeah, I stop and do it, but
Most time you're charging at home, so you don't have to worry
really
about
not
it.
that bad, yeah, and at home, it saves me so much time, because I've never done it.
Calling to order. Our microphone's working today.
You think so?
Calling to order the March meeting of the Fairport Municipal Commission. Could we have the roll call?
Commissioner Jordan?
Present.
Commissioner Yurgash?
Present.
Commissioner Keith? Commissioner Shalala?
Here.
Chairperson Stuckey?
Here. Thank you. All right, should we start out with visitors? Would anyone care to introduce yourself, or if you have anything to share?
I have comments.
Is that microphone on?
Good morning, board. Sorry, my name is Elizabeth King. I live at 94 Potter Place. Just about my comments into context, I'd like to tell you a little bit more about myself. I'm currently my 10th year of being a trustee of the Fairport Public Library. And ever since I have been a trustee of the library, we have been aware that in a couple of years, our lease is going to end and we are going to have to renegotiate that lease. There have been minor distractions like a global pandemic to make us not think about that for a while, but we've always been aware that that is a looming thing in our horizon and that we're gonna have to do something about it. And all of us, all the trustees and our director Carl, who if you haven't met him, you should go talk to him, he's a great guy, very knowledgeable, great director. We need to figure out what we're going to do for the future. And we have, you know, our contingencies, we have our best cases, we have the things that we are probably gonna have to do, but we also have our best case scenarios and what we want to do if we had the public support, the finances, the funding, the resources that we need to build the best library for our community's future. That's the thing that we're always thinking about. So to put that in the context of why I'm here today, as you're no doubt aware, our climate future, our energy future are things that are very important that we're thinking about, that we have to constantly worry about. And as the appointed trustees of the corporation that provides the electricity for this community and the people in charge of that corporation, we hope that you are also thinking about that future. And we understand that there are constraints that you are under. We understand that FMC buys power and transmits it to the community. And we appreciate the lower rates. We appreciate the amazing customer service that we have always received. But we know that there are things that have to happen for us to keep getting that great service and those low prices. We know that electrification is the future. The demand for power is only going to increase. Prices of power are only going to increase, especially if we do nothing. And with that said, we have a community, we have a very large part of the community that is very interested in our energy future and in making changes, positive changes, to mitigate the looming climate crisis or the ongoing climate crisis, to mitigate the energy crisis. I mean, the last week is a perfect example of that. But what we need is clarity. We need leadership. We need to know what it is we need to do, and we feel that the people in charge of this corporation that provides our electricity should provide that clarity. You know, we can go out and lobby, we can meet with our representatives, we can push our community leaders to make those changes, but we need to know what they are. And I understand that this is a forum in which I can speak and I can ask you questions, but you're not obligated to respond. But I would really appreciate it if, and not in this meeting, but in a formal document, resolution, something public, you could tell us what it is we as a community need to do to make that energy future happen, to secure that energy future for our, you know, our community and our coming generations. What is that? And if any of you have comments on that, I would love to hear that.
Thank you. And one thing on our agenda today is our future of our power coming to Fairport, so talk about that a little bit later.
Go ahead.
Thank you. All right, could we talk about unfinished business? I think first up we have a review of the minutes from the February meeting? Did everyone have a chance to review those? I think you were absent for that one.
Yeah, probably soon.
Still have 3 people who were there. Any questions on that? No. Okay. Alright, I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Second.
Alright, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, 3 in favor, 1 abstaining. Moving on to new business, we have first on the agenda, discussion of 2026 weather impacts and customer billing.
So this will be a continued discussion. As we talked about over the last month, the cost of power for January, the open market averaged, so this is 24/7 power for the month of January. In New York averaged about 23 cents a kilowatt hour. We were able to purchase it about 16 cents a kilowatt hour, which unfortunately did result in a PPAC for January of about 8.5 cents, which was historically the highest we've ever had. February ended up trading or averaging about 16 cents a kilowatt hour. We were able to procure that about 9.5 cents a kilowatt hour. We're forecasting our PPAC to be under 5 cents. We haven't got our final bills yet, but it should be less than January's. One of the things that there's some miscommunication, or that these high costs are all because of the supplemental or the power beyond the hydro. Here in reality, the majority of these costs are exactly on the hydro. We buy hydro at the dam in Niagara Falls for about $0.015. But to get it to Fairport costs significantly more during these cold spells when the transmission system is constrained. We only distribute the power, we don't generate it. This is the true nomenclature, supply and demand. There's not enough supply these times when demand is hot. So the costs that we're seeing had nothing to do with majority of it, on fossil fuel or anything else. The majority of it was to get the power or hydro to Fairport. So it is, beginning of February was just as cold as January. The end of February did, trend normal, warmer. March is starting off, normal. We still have some cold days. If you remember the first couple days in March, we were single digits. So when 70 on a Saturday, we certainly forget those times. So we're continuing to work, with our, the Power Authority and with NIPA to try to, there are things that we can do in the future, as a budget billing for Fairport as a whole. There's things that we can start to look at, but they've never been done before either. So just, we do realize the customer impact. We certainly hear from the customers, ladies in the office, on a normal day, we may average 40 or 50 inquiries, and we're over 90 to 100 calls. Usually everyone you pick up is a person who's upset. So, but we are getting there, but this is unforeseen. This is kind of how the grid is operating right now. It'll change in the future, and that's going to be, we can certainly give our opinion, but it's beyond our control also.
And you said budget billing hasn't been done before. We have that available per customer.
We
right?
have budget billing for our customers, but has a Muni ever done budget billing with their supplier? Those are things we're trying to look at to try to, by Fairport doing budget billing, does it help when we get to January and 8.5 cent PPAC? Would it reduce it? But there's legislation and things that have to kind of go along with those things. So we are, we're continuing to, as customers call, offer, payment agreements. We certainly recommend budget billing. Don't recommend budget billing right this month. If you wait to April and start it, it'll certainly, work itself out for the year. But if you get it started in February, it would be a pretty ugly year as a true-up. So, so customers work with our billing office, they'll get the best advice on when and how to do it.
Hey Matt, billing as a municipality, is that something like that you may would negotiate, or are you thinking like specifically Fairport?
No, we're doing it as a group with the MUA and NIPA, so we are doing it as a group. That's one of the things, by sitting on those boards and having a say, we can contribute to those discussions.
Thanks.
Yeah, cause I think this year especially, that had a big impact on a lot of the different municipalities for getting hit with that large bill all at once.
Correct. You know, it's the largest monthly billing, you know, as an organization NIMPA had ever seen, was about $37 million for a month, and they topped 50 million for the month of January. You know, but they have to pay the power bills within 4 days of receiving it. You know, they're basically their weekly true-ups, and then it's 30-day net for municipalities and 30 days from their customers. So there's a 60-day lag, and those bills actually get paid in here. So. You're welcome.
Alright, now the exciting part, right? NIPA long-term agreement, amendment and future cost structure.
So this goes back, the long-term agreement is a contract between the municipalities and New York Power Authority, that basically, you know, provides our hydro. And one of the things that was always part of that long-term agreement was they have a RSR, a rate stabilization reserve, that was basically supposed to, it would go $25 million from zero in either direction, they wouldn't adjust their rates. They were actually about 88 million deficit. So one of the things that has happened over the last 2 years has been continued discussions with the Power Authority and the MUA and the NIMPA board to work this out. We know the Power Authority is putting billions with a B into Niagara Falls, you know, the generation plant, you know, the infrastructure capital costs, which they are due. I mean, those are things that, you know, have aged out, they need to be replaced. So, you know, by working together, we were able to negotiate an amendment to this long-term agreement. We still have our hydro locked in 2040, but one of the things that happened is they were going to basically zero out the RSR. So instead of collecting the 88 million, which they're actually due, they're actually able to kind of write that off. And then we came up with new hydro rates, which have not been updated on 12 or 15 years. And these are truly gotten locked in. And not that people were afraid to touch it, but it was just, it takes a lot of work, a lot of legislative change just to make these changes. So, you know, right now, you're buying about 1.5 cent hydro, and that's at Niagara Falls, it's not at Fairport or Municipal or wherever else. You know, by 2031, it'll go to 2.3 cents at Niagara Falls, which is a great deal, an incredible deal. You know, it still doesn't, I mean, the Power Authority doesn't have the say in the transmission system and how it gets here, they generate it. So, you know, it's a continued great deal for our customers. You know, that's at 77 megawatts that, you know, at 2031 is at 2.3 cents. You know, I won't say it almost doubles, but it'll come closer to that. But it took a lot of work by a lot of people. Now what it takes is a resolution by all of the municipalities, individual resolutions by the municipalities for the Power Authority. This includes the co-ops in New York, along with, you know, so it's all the electric municipalities plus the co-ops have to, you know, approve this with their legislative bodies with a motion and approval. And then the Power Authority can approve this, and it'll go into effect. You know, April 1 is when it should go into effect, is where it's, you know, so time is kind of the essence. And the Power Authority was late getting us out the red line agreement, so it just unfortunately did get, you know, we were just able to get it to you, and then we're asking for a motion there on it. But it is a good deal. I mean, it truly locks in pricing. Getting rid of that $88 million is huge. If you remember, they brought out what they thought was a good agreement a couple years ago, and the prices were more than double what we ended up negotiating to. So it'll definitely keep low-cost electric, you know, this generation forefront.
So that 88 million that's written off, is that basically covered by the state? Where does that go?
So the Power Authority is their own separate entity.
Yeah.
If you ever look, they tend to have large coffers. You know, how they generate that is, you know, through a lot of different factors. they're able to rent it off without any financial issues.
Big amount for rent.
Yes, it is.
And I know there was a conference call last week that I wasn't able to make, but, looking through the agreement, it looks like there's also some partnership information in there about, like the minimum 1 mil adder, you know, for the IEP. I think we're currently at 2 of them, right?
We're currently doing that. You know, this just formalizes that the other municipalities, not all of them did it. The
Okay.
MUA ones did, the co-ops had not, so it's kind of formalized the agreement, the 2 mil adder.
I think the agreement had 1 mil.
It's a minimum of 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's co-ops that are doing less than that.
Okay. But it,
Fairport is doing a 2 mil, like the other municipalities in the, of the MUA.
yep, yeah. And that 1 mil, or the 2 mil adder is funding the IEP program, which is the, I forget what that stands for, but it's the, efficiency programs and incentives, rebates that are able to be.
It is funded, yeah, we have a very large appliance rebate program, actually one of the best in the state. Heat pumps, without, basically word of mouth advertising, we're able to, have the highest percentage heat pump rebates going, which is great. And I think part of it is the housing stock in Fairport, had heat pumps originally, as they failed over time, they're 20, 30 years old, people had to replace them, so people were used to them. They're much better these days than they were before. What? Other locations, heat pumps were brand new. I mean, they had oil furnaces, and wood stoves, and some of the rural areas didn't have the heat pump infrastructure, so that's new to them. But for us, you know, it seemed it was an easier transition. So, you know, we're it pays insulation programs. You know, the IEP is has their energy conservation program.
That will continue.
So at that 2.3 cents, how long will that go through 2040 or?
2031, then it would stay to 2040 unless another amendment was done.
Then there were some other notes in there that I saw about, all of these things were contingent on being cost effective and making sense in the municipality, but potentially revising rates to encourage off-peak usage and then encouraging distributed energy.
You know, we're continuing to evaluate that. You know, there are things that, some of it certainly makes sense, and other, you know, cost more than the benefit. So, you know, at the end of the day, we still have to, you know, perform that benefit cost analysis on these things. So, is it 2026 it happens? Probably not, but you know, by 2030, do some of these things come into play? Absolutely. You know, it's, you know, the Power Authority doesn't know how to do it right now. You know, so they're working on this, you know, with us, and that's kind of that partnership. And they'll start some pilot programs and some other things to see what works and what may have to get, you know, reevaluated.
I assume our current our new meters would support.
We would
something
support
like that?
time of day. The meters
Yeah.
are capable of time of use rate. We would need a, as part of a rate case, a new tariff to adapt that.
Yeah. One thing I wasn't sure that I saw in the agreement was, there was information about curtailment for water events. How about curtailment for other reasons?
So it's a great catch. So right now, what happens is when, this happened for 2 weeks in January, when the Niagara River freezes, or there's actually a ice boom in Lake Erie that keeps the ice back. If ice goes over the ice boom and heads down the river, they have to shut down generation. At that point, the Power Authority will buy power because they have contracts, they have to supply the powers. What they're doing is they're just going to the open market, and they're gonna buy power to basically take the place of the power that cannot generate because of the ice. And then they bill us for it. And typically, you'd see the bill 3 months later. And with no explanation, we get notified that they're unable to generate because of ice, but there's no backup on how much until you get a bill 3 months later. There's, you know, it's, at that point, it's done. So one of the things with this now, what'll happen is when this was a big part of negotiations, when when they have that curtailment, cannot generate because of ice, it'll actually be placed into that RSR plus or minus 25 million, so we won't get billed individually. You know, it used to be a couple hour event, so it wasn't a huge deal. You know, January was a 2-week long event, and we've yet to see any cost on it. You know, it will be a surprise when we get it, because you have no idea what it is. Are you opening a bill of 2,000 or 2 million? It truly, the ramifications, if you remember, January was trading at 23 cents a kilowatt hour. How much of that was it all 77 megawatts during those 2 weeks, or was it a portion, because they shut down some generation? You know, they're not forthcoming with that information. But, it's one thing we continue to ask for, so we're trying to do better, you know, partner better with them, but just getting that out of individual bills will be huge.
How about if they needed to curtail for other reasons?
It'll be the same thing. It's not just ice. Any curtailment will come out of that RSR.
Okay. Okay, so bottom line, we're locking in until 2040. Keep
Yeah,
getting the
we
Niagara
were
Falls
locked in
power.
at 2040, and then, like I said, this just locks up rates until then.
Any questions? Right, so go ahead.
No, I'm sorry.
I think then the next thing would be a resolution for our Fairport Municipal Commission to approve the agreement for the sale of Niagara Project wholesale power and energy with the New York Power Authority. So I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Okay. Second, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have continued discussion on FMC ongoing projects.
So as you look around the village, we have crews continuing to work on High Street. We have crews working on High Street Extension. There's other crews transitioning out to Hamilton Road and Howell Road. This summer after June, once we get into fiscal year, we'll be rebuilding Dewey Ave, Wakeman Road. So there's some larger projects also that we're getting into. What you see is, you know, less of, we spent all last winter doing the meter changes, where this year we're doing a lot of pole changes and catching up on reconductor and those types of things. So, yeah, you should continue to see the guys around the villages, what's going on.
Personnel update?
Yeah, just a quick update. So at this point, we are fully staffed in the line department. You know, we're back to 19, which we have not been for quite a few years. With that, there are 8 under 24 years old, and we have quite a few apprentices. We have 7 in apprentice school. We're starting here in April, so 1 4th year, 1 3rd year, and 5 in 1st year. So there's quite some time before they continue to really transition to that lineman or line person, you know, type title. But yeah, so our parking lot is full.
Excellent.
Wow. Yeah, good job. It's been a while.
In the office, you know, we have a possible pending retirement in the billing office, so staff starting to interview to fill 1 or 2 positions up here also. So.
Good, I'm sure that feels much better.
It does. You know, 5 years from now, when they're all fully qualified, it'll feel great. But it is.
Yes.
Great bunch of, you know, people, and they're excited to be there, so it's good.
Good energy. All right, next up, could we review the financials?
Good morning, we have the January 2026 financials as well as a snapshot for February. In terms of January, we've talked a lot about in the previous months about how the first half of the year we end up losing money or in order to get to our break-even point. We have gotten to the point where we are positive. It's a little bit earlier than usual, mainly due to the short staffing that we have finally filled, but we're in good shape to have a break-even or slightly positive year, but it should be good shape. In terms of February for our cash flow shows that we had 880, we talked about last month about how we had, may have a need to borrow money from the village. We were able to get through that February point without borrowing any funds. That said, it shows that we have $880,000 at the end of February. We paid our NIPA bill on March 2nd in terms of cash flow, so that was 500,000 of that 880,000. We also have funds that are specifically reserved for consumer deposits. So that is pretty much as close as we can get to not having cash flow and not having to borrow. We were able to get through by aging out our payables to pay on due dates, but we were able to sneak through that, so that's good news. We are seeing people pay, the majority of people are paying on their due dates. We're expecting to see a higher disconnect season, but for the most part, we have gotten through that hard part for the cash flow, so.
Good. Questions?
Is it a higher, disconnect due to non-payment?
We're anticipating that, yes.
Okay.
I think that's normal cycle that we go through, but with the higher costs, it's more likely to hit us.
Higher bill.
It's normal, usually it happens in April, but it's, just the higher bills that people are receiving due to an unprecedented cold season and high rates that, we anticipate, more people not paying and then having to get into some type of payment plan or something.
Alright. There are no other questions. I would entertain a motion to accept the financial reports.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Next, we have the vouchers that went around. I would entertain a motion to authorize the payment.
So moved.
Second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Great, our next meeting is scheduled for Monday, April 13. Any other topics?
Just had one topic, if we could get an update on the, timeline and process for the budget.
Yeah, we should probably think about maybe having a special meeting or something for the budget, because, the full budget, which includes electric, is delivered to the board in a couple of weeks. But our next meeting's in a month, and I think we've done most of our meetings with the village board prior to our next meeting, so, perhaps I can send out some dates that you guys might be willing to come in. We'll just have a quick special budget meeting for that. We just can't give today, because it's not delivered or prepared yet fully. Everything's mostly done, but we're preparing it as we speak. So maybe I can do that. We can set something up for the next couple of weeks, maybe after spring break, of course, or before.
Yeah, and then does that give us time if we wanna, make amendments to
Oh, yeah.
the electric
Yep.
budget as well?
Yeah, I don't think the full budget will be adopted till, I believe, the April meeting, Mayor? Yeah, the April meeting. So we have about a month
Okay,
for us to schedule and talk about it.
sure, thank you.
Yep.
Good question. Good. If there's nothing else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.